And what I was saying is, I know this is going to sound like a cliche, but that's one of the things that I was able to work on to help accomplish the transfer of that land so that the town could build that park. That I can see, that is something that's tangible that makes me feel good, you know, when I drive by and I see, you know, kids out there, because that was something that is stalled. There was no reason for it. I mean, once we got into it and understood why it had stalled and why the land wasn't being transferred, I realized that it was politics at its worst. Deals have been cut that were absolutely unacceptable. I don't think anybody, in fact, the legislature didn't even know about the deal that was kind of the roadblock to getting that land transferred. And even after we discovered this, there were still roadblocks to the transfer, and that was, I think it was a good learning experience for me to kind of understand when we say things like, well, the county should just give this away or transfer this, that I never appreciated all the hurdles that there may be, in addition to contracts, but you know, you have to take a look at where the land came from, etc. There may be some restrictions there when you go to transfer it. And the other thing that I'm, you know, really, you know, glad to have had the opportunity to work on is the Woodlands Outpost. And I think I talked about that probably 2 years ago, because we've had that up now for about 3 years. But it's not so much the outpost. I think it's what it helped create. In addition to the police presence, I think it worked in conjunction with the Neighborhood Watch. And I can't give the residents out there who are members of the Neighborhood Watch enough credit. You know, the initiative that they've taken to really control their own neighborhoods is just, it's something that's a credit to them and to the neighborhood. And I'm proud to even have them in my community. I mean, they're a great example of what can be done if people get together. I don't want to keep. I'm sorry. Did I answer the question?
I think so. Yeah. We'll get some questions. HSBC, what is the latest there? I mean, you mentioned that as somebody who's coming, but when? I mean, what's going on? I haven't heard much about them recently. So, are they really coming?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. They haven't seen anything. It's my understanding that they've selected the site.
Cambridge still, or
yes.
Okay.
Yes, and then they're in the process right now of doing the initial, well, obviously the legal.
Right.
The legal end of it needs to be tied up first. And that's something that our center is obviously excited about. I haven't been, we do get apprised on that periodically. If that's something that, if you want an update.
Yeah, I just wondered if you guys heard anything recently. I know, obviously if Jill had heard of anything, she probably put in the paper, but.
Well, I know that everyone's, when we have these great projects like that, there's always a sense.
Big announcement, yeah.
Well, I think it's part of growing up in Western New York.
Right.
I've had things.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I understand, and that is not something that I've considered with this project. I mean, everything that I've seen, we have no indication to think that anything has changed.
Right.
In fact, it hasn't.
Right. Okay. Another quick one that I think we're all asking all the legislators. Reduction. Would you vote to reduce the amount of legislators on the legislature?
Well, I guess what you're asking is would I vote to allow the referendum on the ballot to allow the reduction in the size of the legislature?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that.
So yeah, would you allow a vote? Okay. So
sure, of course.
Okay. So you would be in favor of putting a referendum on a ballot that would reduce it?
Well, that's an easy one because I think it should be. I think it should be the voters' decision.
Okay.
As you
would
know,
you vote yes?
Yes.
Yourself when you would
absolutely.
Vote? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
As you know, it can be done every 10 years at the time of the census.
Right.
And right before I was elected the first time, that referendum was on the ballot, but it was tied to a referendum for county executive, I believe,
Okay.
and that failed. And I will
So
also take it one step further.
Not tied to.
Well, yeah, you may want to ask that question too.
Right.
Not only would you support it, but would you also support not tying it to some sort of other referendum as a joint referendum? And I think it should be. Do I have feelings on? I have feelings on both sides of the issue.
Right.
To be perfectly candid with you, I think as far as efficiency goes, certainly you would get some gains. You get some gains there. Obviously, the districts would become larger, and I don't really know what the dynamics would be or what the effect would be, on the position itself if that were to happen. I haven't to be honest with you, I've never really thought that through.
Right.
But with respect to your question, well, that's an easy one.
Yeah.
I mean, it should always be up to the voters.
So next time we would be up is what, 7 years, 8 years? I mean,
I think it's coming up now because it was before I was elected. I've been in, this is my fourth year. So it should be within the next 5 years, I think.
Okay.
I was about to say, don't quote me on that, but I'm being recorded, so I guess I can't.
It's there.
Right.
Is it a state law that says it has to be when a census, or?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
So that's actually the first time that's come up that I've heard. I thought it was just whenever the county would want to put it on a.
It's always been my understanding.
Yeah.
Actually, that was my understanding based on what I read in your newspaper.
Yeah.
Several years ago. Now I could be wrong. I could be
maybe it's
misinformed.
changed. I don't know. Okay. What do you guys have?
AES been a huge hot button issue. Where do you stand on it? Are you in favor of, I know a lot of the people have come in and said they'd like to look at replacing the IDA, having more control over the IDA. What's your stand on that whole thing?
Well, I have mixed feelings. As a politician, would it have been easier if the issue never came up? Well, of course. Obviously, it has been a very divisive issue. As you know, the pilot was entered into between the IDA and AES. AES has some concerns regarding its assessment and what it was paying in taxes. A few years prior to this, and you reported in the newspaper, so I'm sure you're all aware of this, there was an agreement, because this is not an issue that just came up. This has been an ongoing issue. And there was an agreement between the interested parties, between the town of Somerset and AES and the county of Niagara, where there was an agreement regarding the assessed value of the plant. I believe it was $400 million.
Right.
And at that point in time, the Supreme Court judge overseeing those proceedings he put it in his order, so you will enter into some sort of payment in lieu of tax agreement so we can forego all this litigation. That obviously never happened. It should have happened because that's really what the plan was back several years ago.
Right.
So what our IDA did is they implemented that plan under the parameters that the state law affords them. Again, as a politician, that would be something that would be very difficult for a politician to do because, as you know, you were there and saw the backlash and kind of what's happening. There was a group of people that were very vocal about their position, and it was a very difficult time for us. But I think one of the reasons, and I never really appreciated this before, it's one of the reasons you have these boards separated from your politicians, is that there should be some sort of shield between the board, who you have confidence and faith in, that they're going to do what they feel is right for the economy of Niagara County, versus what the politicians may do, because we have other interests that may not be consistent with doing what you feel is best for business in the economy, even though obviously we always want to do what's best for business in the economy, but there are other issues because, and this was a perfect example. Now, obviously the pilot went through, and the county, and I'm sure you may recall this, we actually asked for a review because we felt that was the right thing to do, whether or not the IDA acted within the parameters of the state law, whether or not they had the authority to do what they did. And we actually brought an action. We joined, well, I don't think we brought it, we joined with the town of Somerset, the Barker School District, and we worked together on that. And at the end of the day, the Supreme Court felt that they did act within the parameters of the law. If the judge or the court would have found otherwise, then obviously we would have been expected to take certain action. That didn't happen.